Hey, you beautiful creatures. I am excited to be back in studio with you and excited to share this with you. A long, long time ago, I can still remember how the music used to play. I listened to Disturbed, The Sound of Silence, and I was mind blown. I went to in-depth review about it, and you guys really enjoyed it. And then I was reminded that there is the live version that I have not listened to yet. And I saw my brother from another mother, Knox Hill, review it, and I thought, you know what? Let me do the same and let me look at it from the psychological aspect. A song that has shaped many, that people have called the wake-up call.
Darkness, my old friend, I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence.
That pause was beautiful. I gotta pause again. I'll go back. I want to pause for copyright reasons, but also you came for a review. I love that there's such a distinct feeling between the live version and the studio version. The studio version and music video blew me off my chair. The depth, the rendition, the emotion, so many ways we can interpret those lyrics just the way that it's presented. And it's fascinating to me how you can have a song that is legendary in and of itself, that when covered, reimagined in a certain way, can evoke a completely different feeling or message from the same song, the same lyrics, with the way that the singer sings it, the texture of the voice, the timbre, the composition. But even here, I'm seeing such a difference from studio versus live. And I love the enunciation. We know that David Draymond is a skilled, trained singer. I believe you have taught me or told me also since that he has training in opera and operatic singing. I mean, phenomenal, incredibly technical vocal control for days. It's phenomenal. What amazes me, though, is that even someone who has such control and is so technical and can belt for days, there's a gentleness here in his voice and the timbre, in the way that he's applying his voice, in his eyes. There's a softness that I can relate to, that I think many people can relate to. When we look at The Sound of Silence and the lyrics, this feeling of something that is so familiar, and to call darkness an old friend is very poetic, it's very poignant, but also very relatable to many of us. And to then hear that pause between the sound of silence, really bringing to life this idea of what silence might sound like.
Of silence, in restless dreams I walked alone.
The warmth, the fullness, the piano.
Narrow streets of cobblestone.
Building a lot of anticipation.
The halo of a street lamp, I turned my collar to the cold and damp. When my eyes were stared by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence.
A neon light that split the light.
And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. People writing songs and voices never shared. And no one dared disturb the sound of silence. Fools say that you do not know. Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words and I might teach you. Take my arms and I might reach you. and my words, like silent raindrops, fell and echoed in the wells of silence, and the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. And the sign lashed out its warning, and the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls, whispered in the sun of silence.
What? Wow, phenomenal. Wow, Vanson. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I'm really glad I reviewed this. I should have listened to this live version so much sooner. So much sooner. The poignance of this live version is very special. The music video speaks volumes and it's I think very powerful when we try to interpret the lyrics and look at the psychology, the philosophy behind it, because music videos and the themes that are chosen, the symbolism, the elements, it matters. There's storytelling behind it, and it affects how we see things, right? We are scientifically very visual creatures where the majority of what we perceive is what we see. We hear a portion, we feel, taste, and smell a portion, but the majority is perceived through our eyes, and that's hence one of the reasons we have that saying, seeing is believing, right? We believe what we see, it influences us. And so having a music video that impacts us scientifically, psychologically. But here I'm loving this live version because here you see the humanity. The musical composition, the entire arrangement is glorious. From the gentle pianos often bringing in a very sombering ballad, classical music feel that strips us down to the bare minimum of our humanity. It brings us down to the basics. Before there is the crescendo, before any big staccato that the strings bring in, a piano often with a lot of arrangements can make things, can ease a conversation into existence, can open the door for something, can create a lot of emotion. And that's not to say that the piano can bring staccato and all the drama and all the emotions. The piano is a gorgeous instrument, but the way it was played here, it, like water, made me feel like we're flowing into something. And that's beautiful from a listening experience because a lot of us, we enjoy the ride. In life, it's stimulating to the brain to have some type of climax, right? When the excitement kicks in abruptly, while that can be fun and this surge of dopamine can be exciting at times, what makes a ride so fun is the climb and having that climax on top before the descent, versus constant abrupt stimuli. And in the same way, musical compositions are intriguing when you have that introduction, you have an easing in. Now we're bringing in the acoustic guitar. Later on, the percussion elements, I've said this in other videos, rhythmic instruments, they impact us greatly emotionally. We are rhythmic beings. Our heartbeat, the neurons firing, we are part of nature and there's rhythm everywhere. Rhythm is everywhere and it affects us and it gets us excited. That's why African music, Arab music, that's why music that is strong, flamenco, things that are strong in rhythmic elements get us excited. They want to make us want to dance. They ignite the warrior within us, tribal elements. So here having these beautiful percussion elements is wonderful. The whole crescendo of the composition to then have the strings come in and even that descent of notes in the end that after riding said ride and being on that climax bring us back down, and it brings it back down to silence and to a sombering feeling. But the humanity here of this live performance, still seeing him just have so much vocal control, the softness, the airiness, his vocals just opening with a lot of warmth and depth you could get lost in, to then bringing in that full rasp and the grit that we love about Disturbed and about Draymond was a beautiful piece, just composition-wise alone. But then you have a live performance where you see the humanity. It's not auto-tuned. It's not all perfect. It's real. And that is much more endearing often to many people than the perfect radio produced versions because we crave authenticity. It builds trust. Even though we want to hear beautiful things, we love excellence and perfection. We get excited about someone climbing a building without any restraints, risking everything. There's something very exciting and stimulating to our brain and our existence in our own death anxieties to see someone else brave death, defy death like that. There's something exciting and comforting about that. And in the same sense, while we love the excellent and those who go above and beyond, and we praise those who are willing to dare greatness, we also long for authenticity and humanity in that. We long for someone to achieve greatness, but also admit that they too struggle with the same death anxieties we do. Or we want to see someone perform beautifully and nail that dance move or that vocal run. But we also appreciate if we do hear a subtle rasp or a vocal fluctuation that indicates this was real, this was authentic. All the more impressive that they did it so well live. But this is a human. It connects more personal. It pulls us in. It's as if we're standing right in front of that stage. You see the glistening in Drayman's eyes and the authenticity, the emotion of someone who means what they're saying here. It makes it very personal. The lyrics, I went into detail in my review of Hello Darkness, My Old Friend, The Sound of Silence. But I want to look at it just a little more because as I was listening, new things came to my mind. And I don't recall, it's been so long, if I mentioned these things. But things like, the lyrics like that neon piercing through the dark, splitting the night, and then touching the sound is very poetic, for one, because it sounds wonderful, amazing songwriting. But it also meshes these senses. Touching sound. How often do we speak of that? How often do we say that we're touching sound? But I think the more we dive into these studies and explore how everything is energy and waves, sound waves, light waves, and we realize just how connected it all is, it makes you realize that you can indeed touch sound and feel vibration, and that a lot of the things we tend to categorize, well, the things I can see and the things I can hear, the more we realize it's all connected, it allows us to look at things from a more bird's eye view. And I love that poetry here because it allows for us to, hopefully, what I think the song is trying to do is for us to question things, to look at things from with a critical mind and open eyes. I think it is a song that is meant to awaken us from a slumber that was relevant back in 1964 when Simon and Garfunkel released this, and just as much, if not now more, is still so relevant. To say that neon light, that flash of a neon light, split the night, makes me think of. It intrigued me when I heard that lyric because we are so used to neon lights at this point that they don't pierce the night anymore. They're everywhere, and when you are all around that kind of stimuli, billboards, neon lights, your phone, the television, constant stimulation. And you then happen to go on a camping trip where you realize that the stars are much more vast and glorious than you ever thought because they don't look like that in the city. Or you dare to get away from technology and you experience the dark, the night. You experience the silence. You experience the peace. When you now see a neon light, it feels all the more in contrast to that peace. And I see a lot of duality in these lyrics because on one hand, I see the sound of silence as something comforting, as this thing that we long for. We're so saturated by noise, by neon lights, people that are so quick to be polarized that we lose our vision, and we are in need of silence and in need of to listen to that sound. But the double entendre, triple whipple entendre, the other side of the conversation that I see here is that silence is also something dangerous. When we are so consumed when we have visions planted in our brain, we have restless dreams, narrow streets of cobblestone, a man-made surrounding, the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp. My eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light. In the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more, talking without speaking. One of the most poignant lyrics of this song is this to me. People talking without speaking, hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never share. No one dared disturb the sound of silence. And here I'm also seeing the flip side of the conversation where the silence is something dangerous. Silence where people are afraid to speak up, where we are being consumed by the neon lights and by the distraction and our phones and social media. And it's splitting the night. It is causing division. It is causing a shock to our system, overstimulation, division. And we have a lot of people saying a whole lot of stuff in the comment section, but they're not actually speaking. Nothing is really being said. People hearing without listening. We hear all of this, but we're not actually listening to one another or to what's going on. Songs are being written that voices never share. This could too be meant in many ways. The music industry, where you have a lot of people that perform songs they never wrote, a lot of ghost writers, and songs that are being written for other people where, you don't know who wrote what and you don't know what to believe. Is this a conversation about people writing songs that voices never share? People have things to say, songs to write, art to create, but the voices never share it. It doesn't ever get out. We have a lot of people that have so much gifting potential, a message. You have a message. You were created to create, I've said before, and you have something to give to this world. But if your voice never shares it, no one will hear it. There is this element of fear. No one dared disturb the sound of silence. It's almost like people came to worship that thing, and now no one has the courage to, no one dared, no one wants to share these songs, and the sound of silence is what becomes idolized. Then when we look at things being idolized, now we're talking about things are starting to get darker, and that darkness, my old friend, that familiar, dangerous, gloomy, dark duality here is now becoming more dangerous, because now we're speaking about silence like a cancer growing. This thing that sounded peaceful at first has become a cancer, something that's destroying things from within. Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach you. It makes me think of when Jesus said, those who have ears, let them hear. It's this plea perhaps for someone to hear and they might learn something. Hear my words. Hear what I've got to say. I might teach you something. Take my arms that I might reach you. There's this longing to get through to these people that have been so consumed by this cancerous sound of silence. There's a longing for those looking from the outside in to reach and to help and to wake them up. But my words like silent raindrops fell and echoed in the wells of silence. Earlier we spoke about the cold and damp and the street lamps. Now we're speaking of silent rain. It's a beautiful picture being painted here. Very sensitive to the senses, the things we can imagine, hear, feel, and smell. It echoed in the wells of silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. This neon that split the night. Maybe a conversation about division and about technology and about the TV and about this thing that made a room fall silent. People stopped talking. People stopped listening to one another. People stopped connecting. People stopped questioning. It split people. The TV, the radio, we're listening to the media, and everyone is silent. We're just looking at the screen. We're just looking at our phone. Everyone is quiet. And we're missing the mark. We're not connecting anymore. We're not hearing each other, not listening. And it's becoming a cancer now. And now it's become a thing we worship, the neon god they made, the TV, the media, the phone. This thing has been idolized now. It seems to be looked at for all the answers. AI now more than ever, ChatGPT, right? Many of us can relate to that desire to get some questions. And you're intrigued by the fact that how fast you can get these answers from this neon god. But now people are bowing and praying, and the sign flashed out its warning in the words that it was forming. And this disturbed, many of you have told me, made this into a wake-up call anthem, where Simon and Garfunkel's in the original was more of a plea, a reminder, a warning. This is like an absolute cry, Disturbed's rendition. And the sign said, the words of the prophet are written on the subway walls and tenement halls and whispered in the sound of silence. It's interesting because even in scripture we see how, I believe it's I don't remember the book in the Tanakh where it speaks about God addressing his people and saying, I've sent my prophets and you've killed them. And we have that in our day and age even today, where some people deem certain individuals as prophets of the time who have wise things to say, who are calling out the system, who are trying to wake us up out of our slumber. And but sadly, because the noise of that neon god and the noise of the silence, the sound of the silence is just so loud that often we can't hear those words of the prophet. They're written on the subway halls. They're written in the most random places where maybe we disregard it. Oh, that's just graffiti. That's just the writing on the wall. That's just, that's nothing in the tenement halls. But in these places where we've written things down, in the places that we may not esteem as important or truthful, that is actually the writing on the wall that we should be paying attention to. And it's whispered in the sound of silence. A beautiful play on our senses, on music, on sound versus silence, but also a powerful piece that addresses politics, sociology, that addresses psychology and the way we operate as people, where something that might seem intriguing or interesting becomes cancerous and dangerous. And sometimes we have to pause and actually pause in the silence, perhaps, to hear the sound, to hear the whispering, that cry. You go check out my original Disturbed Sound of Silence review for more in-depth thoughts that I had when I analyzed this. But I absolutely love this performance. It is so well done, and it just adds a lot of additional emotion. What a piece. I'm so glad that I saw that Knox did a review of this. I hadn't checked out his review yet. I still need to do that, but it made me think. I want to look at the psychology of this as well. What are your thoughts? Subscribe, and I will see you on the next ride. Ayo!